This episode of the Fight Within podcast is presented to you by Meguiar's. For over 115 years, Meguiar's has been carefully creating and producing advanced formulas with cutting-edge chemistry to deliver a show car perfect appearance. Whether you're showing on the fairway, finalizing your car for auction, or simply getting your beloved car ready for a weekend drive, Meguiar's is ready to help with their premium car care products to make every automotive surface look its absolute best. Meguiar's, reflect your passion. Make sure to visit them at meguiars.com.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Within podcast. Today's guest is MMA Fighter Bear Fiorda. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it. And just like every other episode, let's dive right in. So
Please.
Tell us a little bit about your background and why MMA? Like, why did you choose to be a fighter?
So I started doing martial arts and more specifically taekwondo back when I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My dad passed away, and so he left, obviously, and then all of his family I knew at the time that was my majority family had also taken off. And at 5 years old, I didn't know how to cope with that. So my brain, instead of went to let's cry about it, let's do this, it said, let's just hit other kids really, really hard. And so I would go to school and I would act out and I'd get trouble. I get in-school suspensions, out-of-school suspensions. One particular time I was playing airplane with my hands, and whenever someone got too close to my wings, I would just drop them and keep going. And obviously staff had a problem with that. And so I got sent home for 3 days. It was my biggest suspension ever. And my mom, on good advice from my friends, just chucked me into the local taekwondo gym that we had in our area, and I loved it. From 5 years old to 7 years old, I spent the time training, learning how to spar, the basics, and then they started having me compete. And I just got so much excitement out of it because it was one thing I was really, really good at. School was always okay, but I didn't know what to really do with my hands or feet. I was very active as a kid. And so if I wasn't doing martial arts, I was outside playing with sticks and rocks or whatever. I was fighting with my friends because it was fun. And so martial arts gave me an avenue to get all that angst out, all that aggression out. And then moving from there, getting my black belt when I was 14, competing a little bit further, specifically getting into cage fighting, I met a now good friend of mine who's an ex-Muay Thai kickboxing champion. And I thought, I've got enough experience, I got competition experience, I'm a black belt, I can spar this guy, I could probably beat him up, show him a thing or two. I didn't account for the fact that it was a champ and then 10 years above me at that, 10 years additional experience. He kicked my ass 7 ways to hell. It was abysmal. But it made me think, damn, I really got to learn whatever this guy has. And so I started to take lessons under him, and I started training a little bit with a garage gym. And they had some jiu-jitsu, they had some striking, they had a coach. And so one day they approached me saying, we have a fight coming up. It's a competition for a local venue, and we'd like to put you into the fight. Do you want to do it? I said, yes, because it sounded just like taekwondo. It was not. The guy took me down and choked me out in 48 seconds. It was a very big eye-opener. And so from there, I decided, well, now I got to learn all this other stuff. I really want to continue competing, and I got a huge adrenaline rush, and I don't want to stop doing this. So I ended up at a local MMA gym. Actually, it was Cub Swanson's MMA gym, which at the time was called True MMA. So I started training with them, moved around a little bit. COVID, unfortunately, happened, and now I find myself training with Dan Henderson's team out in Temecula. But that's just basically how I went from this kid with anger issues to being able to have a full career by punching people, and it's fantastic.
It's funny, though, because those setbacks are, I feel like, make or break fighters. There's a lot of pride that gets in the way, and they're like, I'm a taekwondo guy, and this guy beat me up, and I'm done. Or it's going to propel you to want to go pursue that more. It's gonna stir up some sort of motivation, some sort of fire in you to want to go pursue that and say, I want to know what he knows. I want to know how he kicked my ass, and I want to make other people feel the way I feel right now.
I'll tell you, if it screwed me up a little bit for a long time, because there was him and he didn't do anything wrong. He just physically beat me. So I thought, my stuff's not as good as his right now. And then meeting some other people who were looked down on more traditional martial arts styles, they'd actually verbally tell me, oh, that sucks, you really should stop doing it because it's not going to work. Yeah. And so for the longest time, I did not include my kicks or my speed. I would try and kind of knuckle through with a lot of boxing and some traditional Muay Thai. And it felt weird for me because it wasn't what was my natural movement. And then as I got more into the industry, more into the sport, talked to bigger names, learned more about people like Anthony Pettis, Anderson Silva, Wonderboy Thompson, the guys who take their traditional martial arts and kick ass with it. I was able to kind of healthily, if that's a word, transition back to using it. It is now.
Yeah, what you just said reminds me of I always forget the guy's name. He fights in goodness gracious, he's really fast on Instagram. He's an Asian dude. You always people always say that he like speeds his videos up.
I know the guy
Eric
you're talking about.
Samuelson? Eric, is that his name? Eric Samuelson?
I wish I could tell you. I've
He fights in like a what is that? That
I've
promotion
seen it
he fights
before.
in. Combat Karate.
Oh, okay. I know the label of it. I understand the concept there.
So it reminds me of that though. Like what you said is you'll see a lot of these like taekwondo guys or some form of like a kung fu, but meets MMA.
Yeah.
And watching those dudes, I'm like, holy crap! You have the speed. Clearly, your footwork is insane, but now you know how to act. You know how to like go in, shoot on someone, take them down. I don't know. You just said that, and I was like, oh dang.
Putting it all together is insane when you have an expertise and you start putting everything together.
Yeah.
You can control the way the fight goes. Like for me, being majority striker, if I have a good opportunity to, I can keep this fight where I'm dominating the feet game. He doesn't want to come close to me. He doesn't want to fight me. So I know that I'm forcing him to go to the ground. So I know what his game plan is going to become if we start getting into the meat potatoes of this fight.
That's a good.
That's dope. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people forget that MMA or the UFC was started with a karate guy versus a wrestler, a taekwondo guy versus a boxer, and who's better. It was essentially like a real life Mortal Kombat, and it was like, this is what this is. We want to see what the best martial art is, and I talk to people about it all the time. And I'd love to get both of you guys' thoughts, because I don't know if we've ever touched on it on the show, but it's. In the beginning, it was jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu kind of dominated because no one knew what it was, specifically Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Then there was a whole era of wrestlers like the Dan Severns of the world, or even Ken Shamrocks and Mark Coleman's. Then it was like Matt Hughes and Rich Franklin and that whole generation where they were like wrestlers, but and Tito and Chuck Liddell, they were wrestlers, but they started to add their stand-up and their jiu-jitsu and started to add different things. Then there's the era that we're in now, I believe, where it's guys that are coming up training MMA. There's not a wrestler trying to learn jiu-jitsu or boxing, or a boxer trying to learn jiu-jitsu or wrestling. These kids have been training since they were like 10, 11 years old and have grown up. Instead of playing football or ice hockey or basketball, they're doing MMA.
Yeah.
And so that to me is like, it's going to advance the sport to another level, I think, once the true athletes, as they call them, are now competing in mixed martial arts. I just don't think the money's there, so it doesn't entice a lot of people to pursue that. And you're getting hit in the face.
Oh, yeah, it's always a little bit of a deterrent for some people.
Sure.
It's funny you mentioned that. One of my coaches, Joe Daddy Stevenson, ex-UFC contender and fighter, he has kids who specifically come to his gym who train with them for 8+ hours a day doing MMA. They're doing jiu-jitsu.
Just MMA.
Just MMA. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, striking, the culmination of all these things just throughout the day, several days a week. And these are the kids that are going to come up one day and be the next champ. He was telling me he has a young boy. He's 12 or 13 right now. He's going to be one of the youngest orange belts, period, at that age. Or maybe he's a little younger than that, but I'm making mistakes.
I don't know the belts.
So
you're good.
But he's been doing gi wrestling tournaments, and he's been working on striking. He's done a couple of Muay Thai tournaments, and he's going to go into the MMA world as an amateur when he's 18. But he's going to have the experience and fighting capability of a pro for the last, by the time he's 15, 3 years by that point.
Yeah.
He's going to be an incredible superstar just right off the bat, because he has all these years of training from being like a toddler up to where he's a fully competent, able human being that can just now kick a lot of people's ass.
Yeah. Well, you see it in just one of those components, right? You go to a jiu-jitsu gym and you get a kid that just got his blue belt and he's 16, but he's been training since he's 6. He's got 10 years of jiu-jitsu. He's 16 years old and will smoke almost everyone in that gym.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't even matter that he's a blue belt. He's beating purples and some browns. And because, like you said, that years of experience, like 10 years of doing anything, like that's
that
insane.
to me is what's scary. In a cool way, though. As an athlete, like, people are like, oh, you should get back in the cage. And I've thought about it sometimes. I'm like, I turned 35 in August. like a lot of heavyweights are super successful after 35. And then I start thinking about all these kids that are coming up, and I'm like, those guys would take my head off so fast.
Well, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, maybe some local shows. I don't know how much I want to pursue this.
Well, every generation improves. You know, the boxers of the 30s and 40s could not compete, or at least be considered the top dogs in the 60s, 70s, or 80s. Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson went on an interview together, and it's really famous for both these guys at the same time saying, oh, well, he'd win because of this, and the other guy saying, oh, he'd win because of this. But I think Tyson was just being very modest. Tyson having, what is it now, in the 80s, 90s, we're talking 20, 30, 25 years plus above what Muhammad Ali was doing at the time. So that's new science, training methods, regimen.
But there are certain things, back to that point before I lose my train of thought, CTE is real. Is if you look at Muhammad Ali, the one thing he was dominant at was his jab. That can keep someone at bay.
Yes.
Now, with Mike Tyson's style, that was obviously his specialty, was getting around that jab.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like a crazy argument, because it's like, could he maybe, like, could Michael Jordan compete with the guys in today's game? Like, maybe. I don't know.
I'm with Bear on this one. Anytime someone brings that topic up, today's just they're different, right? If we weren't progressing as not just athletes, but as humans, we'd be stuck back then, right?
I would say there's a problem.
Yeah, everything progresses. Like the science that we have for the athletes now, the food, the nutrition, the strength, even for more recently, like the size of people today is even different. And they're just two different worlds. I just don't think you can't really fully compare.
Well, the size and speed. Like I went to, I don't know if you guys like basketball. I like basketball, so I'm gonna say it. I went to a Lakers game when they had Dwight Howard, and it was when they first had Dwight Howard when Kobe was on the team.
Dude is a monster.
And Dwight Howard is a very big human being, and very wide. And when I saw him play, he literally looked like a ballerina. Was super light on his feet, was pivoting and moving, and I was like, it was the first time I've ever been in awe. Like, I've gone to football games, and those guys are big and they move fast, but they're like in a confined space, especially the linemen. It's like, we're moving from here to there. That's it. This guy's running up and down the court at 7 feet tall, 275 pounds of just all muscle. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is so scary.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if that guy knew how to fight. That'd be so, like, scary.
But
I would retire.
It's that same principle, though. Like, you compare him to Shaq, and it's only even just a little down the line. And Dwight Howard, I mean, he's just a phenomenal athlete. But the sciences and the programs that he had compared to even what Shaq had shortly before him, it's just two different worlds. But
yeah, see, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, you can't compare. I mean, you can say maybe someone back then, or for you, let's compare it back to Bear, but like, let's say you growing up training Taekwondo compared to these kids that are doing MMA. It's two different worlds.
No, if you, especially being a singular martial art at that point, back in the early 2000s, where MMA still, it existed for sure and had existed for over 10 years at that point, but it wasn't big enough to where every little city had a jiu-jitsu gym or an MMA gym. And so if you would take me as a Taekwondo kid and put me against a kid same age who done MMA for the same amount of time, or even just jiu-jitsu for the same amount of time, it wouldn't have been a fair fight. It would have been very easily taken advantage of, because not only is the style fundamentally different, either combining multiples or being totally on the ground. We're talking about a kid from today's generation. The training, the mentality is just so much harder on these kids. Like I said, pumping out 8 to 9 hours of training under Joe Stevenson, and it's not like these kids are playing around for 3 to 5 hours at a time. They're grinding like UFC fighters are for that time. That's their whole day during this summer training thing.
When they want to. That's what's scary.
That's fair.
Like, they want to do those things. Like, I did not. I was like, I'm cool with 2 hours of practice. Let me go play video games and get dirty. Like, I'm all right with that. The scary thing to me is that they want to, that they're pursuing that. Like, that goes to show you, like, the amount of passion and love they have for something. Because as a kid, how easy, if your kid doesn't like something, be like, Daddy, I don't like this. They're not going to be scared to tell you.
No.
For these kids to want to pursue that is very impressive.
Yeah.
That also goes back to what we were talking about off air, though, the social media presence. Like, the social media world has changed the perception and reality of everything, right? So, like, you as a kid doing Taekwondo, you were stoked because you got to punch people and get your aggression out.
Yeah.
Now, that same kid, but in today's platform, they're like, oh, dude, look at how cool this guy is on social media. Like, I want to do that. And they'll play a freaking video game, and then they'll step into a gym in real life and be like, oh, this is nothing like a video game, so let me get good at it. But
it reminds me exactly of Max Holloway's story. Max Holloway was playing UFC 2 or 3, watching Jose Aldo playing his character, and like, dude, I want to learn how to fight and beat people up. So he started learning how to fight from the video game, and then started training, started taking fights, and he was really good at it just from getting interested by watching his favorite character or himself play and kick other fake people's butts.
See? Yeah. It's so crazy. So for you now, how long have you been doing or training MMA?
Specifically for the cage now, it's been 6 years.
6 years?
Now, there's a little bit of time lapse because of COVID, and I did take a little bit of time after that first brutal choke out to actually learn how to do the sport properly. But all in all, training for the cage 6 years.
Okay. I always like asking the different fighters that we have on the show, but some have answered it in great detail, some have not answered it at all. So, like, I think Manny and I refer to it all the time, but we always refer to, we see fighters under the lights, right? Like football, Friday night lights. You see them under the lights. We don't see the exact preparation that it takes. Like you say, you've been training MMA 6 years now.
Yeah.
People don't understand like the amount of determination that takes, the amount of discipline that takes. It's not all, let's sign up to fight and go get it on a pay-per-view card and make tons of money. So again, you can elaborate as much as you want, but I always really like to try to get people to see the dedication side of things, whether you're a fighter, you're a football player, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner. Every one of those things takes a lot of like discipline, and what we always say is it takes a lot of grit.
Yeah.
So for you, when you're in just your daily life, what does it look like for you as a fighter, training, preparing? I know it's different obviously when you're training just to train versus a fight camp.
Yeah.
So I always like to ask that question because I want people to understand, like, dude, you're putting your body through some like rigorous stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not just for the freaking lights for the 15 minutes, if that 25 minutes, that you're on TV or in an arena. That was a long-winded way of saying, what does your day look like when you're training?
So it used to be actually lighter. I used to do 4 to 6 hours a day. I'd have my morning classes, which normally 2.5 hours. And then the evening time, that would go up to about 3.5 plus hours, depending on what the sessions are like and how long after I stay. Or if I go in early to do some kind of weightlifting or cardio activity before I jump into the actual classes and start training. Now it's more like 6 to 8 hours. So we're upping the ante a little bit when it comes to training. Same thing, same material, just increasing the duration of that time. And the thought process behind that is simply, if I can already push for 4 to 6 hours, how much better am I going to be? How much better can I last? How much more confidence, energy, all these things that come into play when you go into a fight, if I just give myself that extra hour to 2 hours of time. And so the hope there is we increase it, a little bit less freedom to play video games, sure, maybe I don't go out as often with the family, but I get to be more successful in what I do. So if I start off my normal day, I'll wake up somewhere around 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning, I'll eat breakfast, I'll get some clothing and material ready for my trip, because I travel out to where I train, and I stay there for a majority of the week, then I come back. And so I'll travel from my little home in the Coachella Valley and go out to Dan Henderson's Athletic Fitness Center, and I'll be there for 3 to 4 days. 3 to 4 days, at the time it was 4 to 6 hours, now 6 to 8 hours a day. And then I'll stay at a hotel locally, stay at B&B locally, or something to that effect. And then we'll come back and I'll make another day or two trip out there to continue the training later in the week, somewhere around Friday, Saturday time. And then I'll get 1 day, which is kind of rest, but it's not so much like I'm just sitting at home eating potato chips. I'm just not actively at that gym. I'm still either doing physical workouts, I'm running, I'm doing some kind of work on a bag. Maybe I have some partners locally. I can get some rounds in or some pad work in. And so it's mainly training, and then on top of that, working all the social media aspects of it, filming content, posting content, making sure I'm holding my live streams for all the people who want to come in and join that and ask me very similar-esque questions. People, like you said, who see it on the internet and think, oh, I want to do this. How would I get involved? Well, I dedicate and allocate time for that as well. So I probably spend, goodness, if I'm not sleeping, which somewhere around 7 hours a day, a good 12, 13 hours a day actively working or doing stuff. I got a little bit of time to relax, and then a get decent time to sleep, and then I'm right back at it the next day.
See, that's something, and thank you for that answer. You're very thorough.
I try to be. You know, I it's fun. Like, I imagine we're just having a conversation right now, kind of like we discussed before. I'm trying to just be fun and relax. But I also know that this is going to get seen by any number of people. And should any number of the people, any one of those people have a question about this, like you just asked, and they need to know, well, what should I be doing if I want to compete at a higher level, or if I just want to get started? Here's a dedicated answer to you. Now you have the idea of what you can do and should do moving forward. That's
dude, I love it, because again, whether you're a business owner, you're a fighter, you're an athlete of whatever, like, that is pure discipline, right? Like, you're driving from Coachella, and if people don't know where that is, basically Palm Springs, to Temecula. We're
looking at an hour and a half average.
No traffic.
Yeah.
Right? No traffic. So an hour and a half to drive out somewhere to essentially just beat the living crap out of your body, right? Not just like getting punched and kicked, but
beat yourself up.
The amount of just strength that takes in your body just to even go to one class. Dude, I'm wrecked. Mondays are my longest day. Like, I get up early, I work a full day, and I'm at my gym class starts at 6, and I don't leave till 8:45. That's only 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes of that, right? And that's not even at the level that you're doing it. That's for me to just be a fun guy that wants to compete at jiu-jitsu for as long as I can.
In shape.
That's not me like, hey, I need to get out there, train my butt off so I can freaking wreck the other person away from me. Like, it's a different mindset. But, you know, for people that don't know what that's like, that's freaking insane. Like, to be able to train 8 hours a day at such an optimal level is just astronomically crazy.
And you're always best off breaking it up. Like, no, I don't think off the top of my head any sane human beings going like 9 hours straight intensity. They are doing 2 to 3 hours, and then later on another hour of something, and then evening time finishing up with your last 3 to 4 hours or whatever it is, because you're not trying to blow out your body. Yes, you're putting under immense pressure and stress, but you're not looking to kill yourself so you can't train the next day. I think it was Faraz Sahabi made a very good example of this. When you do pull-ups, if you can only do 10 pull-ups max, and you do those 10 pull-ups max, well, now your arms and your back and your traps, you're burnt the next day or two. And so you're ignoring that part of your body to go on to something else, or maybe you're just taking the whole next day off entirely to recover. But instead of doing 10, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, you do 5 every single day. You have put out more volume than you would have if you completely blew yourself out. So I can do the 8 hours straight. I can grab 6 pairs of clothing, and I can go 8 hours, and then I'm going to hate myself next day and a half, and then go back and do it again. Or I can break it up, get some recovery in the meantime, and then the next day do the same thing over and over again, making sure I get a little bit of breaks here and there so that I can continue to put out that volume every single day.
Smart training.
And that's what we were talking about earlier with that change of regime, and when the different generations grow, you learn that, okay, the body should not be going 6 hours period at a time. You need some time to recover before you move into the next session of training throughout the day.
I love it. I love that. And
that's people need to know that. They don't know that.
No.
Someone's going to hear that, and they're just going to be like, oh, that dude trains for 8 hours a day. I can do it too.
Yeah. And it's or they're going to be the total idiot and be like, he trains 8 hours a day, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, dude, you go commit something. Go do, like, it frustrates
it's just like
me.
work. Let's just say someone's working for 8 hours.
Yeah.
They work for 4 hours in the morning, take a nice little break, then work 4 hours at night. You still worked 8 hours.
Yeah, but you get an hour mandatory that you have to take as a break.
Yeah.
Or you'll get sued.
But
back to the same topic of training.
I would just love to see a Karen walk into the gym like, you made my child work out for 3 hours, no break, I'm suing you.
Right?
Oh yeah.
You didn't give him a
when you get
15-minute clocked out lunch break.
Yeah. You need to track it.
Like, on the same topic of your discipline of training, one again that shows like it shows character, right? Like, it shows the amount of character and like tenacity and grit that it takes to be able to commit to something like that. And again, I keep saying it, I'm going to say it every single episode because I want people to get the point, but it's not just for a fighter. It's for whatever you're doing. Again, you can be a social media manager. You can be a coffee shop owner. You can be an internet marketing guy. Like, everything that you do, it has to take a certain discipline. And I feel like in today's world, we're sometimes losing that discipline when it comes to everything else but athletics.
Okay.
So if it's athletics, like, great. I'm still glad kids are wanting to put the effort in.
Yeah.
But as a whole and as a people, we're losing the ability to continue to have discipline, you know, because we live in that instant gratification time because of social media. People see all this stuff and they're like, hey, if this guy has it and he's only 17 years old and all he does is post to YouTube, I need to have a Bugatti when I'm 18 years old because I posted to YouTube. Well, no, it doesn't work like that all the time. It takes a lot of time and a lot of determination, discipline to build stuff.
But I think there's two train of thoughts when it comes to that. I think one could have been rented and they just did it for social media.
For sure.
Two,
instant gratification, yeah.
You don't know the amount of work or years that person did to reach that level of success, whether he's 18, 20, 25. Like, what if they just put out really, really good content and they just happen to come into the social media world or YouTube or whatever earlier than you? Like, you're a 40-year-old man and you're mad because an 18-year-old has that.
Yeah.
The opportunities were just different. Who's to say you're not allowed to do that? You're allowed to do that too, but are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to do the things and edit and learn how to post and learn when to post and learn hashtags and time, all that stuff? They were willing to, they did, and you have the same opportunity, you know?
It's very easy when you're set in a way to fall into the habit of, I rather bring down the other people around me who I see as these big name stars, influencers, whoever. If I'm that 40-year-old man and this 18-year-old drives past me in a beautiful car that I've always envisioned myself having, but I just didn't happen to get like the right movements in life. I didn't meet the right people. This didn't happen to me. It's that same mindset of it didn't happen to me. Not that I didn't do it, but these opportunities never presented themselves. That same 18-year-old, very rarely when you think, okay, but he probably's got rich parents, he's probably had everything silver spoon in the mouth. Very rarely is that going to be the case, especially in the day in social media where you can put all that together. If you just have the extra time and you want to do it, if you have that additional hour a day that you want to create, edit, and post something for people to watch online, you have every opportunity to make the same outcome and the same money as that person. But if you just sit there and think, you know, I couldn't do it because it wasn't available in my time. Well, it's available now. And if you're old enough, if you're still competently able to have a conversation about how much you hate that 18-year-old kid for having what you don't, you're still competent enough to work towards getting those things that you didn't have or that he has right now, if not better than him, because it's a different market per person. But if you're going to sit there and complain, you should expect nothing to happen.
Yeah.
But there's a whole audience for that too.
Yes, there
is. People that want to just complain.
If I decided, like, instead of getting on talking about social media, I got on and decided I want to just talk shit about everything in the planet right now. It doesn't matter what it is. I want to hate on whatever this is right now and explain to people what it is in depth, what its purpose is, why people have it, the different varieties, and why I fucking hate it. That would get people interested. They don't know what this is. Like 90% of the population don't care what this is. But because I've just went through and explained everything for them and I made it kind of funny, I'm going to garnish views, which equates to money, which equates to sponsorship, which can lead me to things I want later in life.
Yeah.
I think that's what I never knew how to word it. And I was listening to Jeremy Piven's podcast he had Michael Chandler on. And he worded it the best I've ever heard it.
Yeah.
And he goes, another person's success will never take away from yours.
No.
Because it was always so hard for me to see other people. Why does that guy have a business? Why is he investing in this? Why does he have a belt? What? And I would never publicly trash him, but internally I'd be like, man, that should be me. You know, why am I not the Bellator champ? Why didn't I get these opportunities? It's like, well, because that's not the cards you were dealt, which is fine. So now take another road. And it was always harder for me to be happy for people, because even though I was in Bellator and I appreciate everything Bellator did for me, I really wanted to fight in the UFC.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to be in the UFC. Yeah, that's where everyone wants to go. And I was like, man, like, I never got that shot. I had some opportunities. I remember one time Derek Lewis, when he was up and coming, he was going to fight at the Honda Center. His opponent dropped out. And I was talking all sorts of crap on Twitter. And now, in retrospect, I'm like, it's probably best that I didn't fight Derek Lewis when he was coming up. But I still would have taken the fight.
Yeah.
Like, I would have fought Brock Lesnar. I would have fought anybody.
Because at that point, win or lose, that's the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's when I heard that from Jeremy Piven, I was like, that is such awesome perspective, because it's okay to be happy for other people, for their successes. You know, if anything, you should be like, hey man, like if you have time, I'd really admire the success you have, like the things you've accomplished. Can I just pick your brain? Like I just want to, I don't want anything from you, even if you have like a PDF and you don't want to talk to me because you don't like fat Mexican dudes. Like send me something.
I have this article I can read, man.
Yeah, like do you have an article I can read? Where can I do more research? Like it's just when you have those opportunities, you know, and I think it's really, really key for today's culture to realize that what you just talked about, like, yeah, just because it wasn't available in your time, it is now. So like, go take advantage of it and go do something about it. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, people don't want to, it's not that they don't, sometimes they just don't know how, or they are too scared. They let the fear paralyze them, but
100%.
they're too scared to go out and take that step, to go push for something, to go strive, to be, for lack of better terms, like uncomfortably hungry, right? You have to have some form in yourself with anything that you do to be successful at it. You have to have some form of a drive. So for me, it's my family wanting to take care of my circle, right? And my circle is anyone that has helped me along the way, family, friends, people that have helped me get to where I'm at in today's life, right? Like I want to make sure I do everything in my power to help take care of my circle. So I know what my why is. For you, Bear, like what is it that is driving you to drive from, you know, Palm Springs to Temecula to essentially beat your body up for 50 plus hours a week? Like what's that thing for you that makes you tick?
So in the beginning, back in 2016 time, it was because I wanted to get better. It was because I got beat up by this guy, and if I was ever in a real situation where this guy was just some giant dickhead and wanted to beat me up, I was very helpless to stop him. And that was my Muay Thai friend that we discussed earlier. So that was the initial reason. I don't want anyone to have that power over me ever again. And I want to prove that I can take it away from other people. Just like it was self-confidence. I want to compete and I want to know I'm the best. Add on top of that was my family always. The huge motivators. My girlfriend, daughter, everyone. The people who want me to succeed. That's a huge motivation for me. And then back in 2018, I opened up a nonprofit called Free MMA, where I teach everyone martial arts for no cost. And in the first, it was a big community project, and the first year we had hundreds of submissions, people who want to come in and join. Now, do hundreds show up? No, that's how it works in the gym game, but I had tens of dozens of people who would come in and they start taking the classes, and then a lot of them kids, a lot of them know I fought. They're like, we want you to win, we want you to bring home that victory, that belt, or that whatever, come here and show it off. And so that was the next step, the next biggest motivation. I have all these people plus my own desire to simply be better than what I was the day before. And so that's what motivates me every day to get up. And you'll get beat up by these guys who, just recently I had a training partner named Jeff Creighton, or Jefferson Creighton, I should say. It's very important. And I say that because Jeff is the cool guy from down the road. Jefferson's like the sociopath who would just he'll kill your whole family. And it's very true, because when he steps in the octagon, and I watch him fight, it's just smooth destruction. He's picking guys apart with elbows, kicks, takedowns. It's beautiful to watch. But I go train with that guy, and every time we spar, I know I'm getting hit with elbows. I know I'm going to get knee in the belly, in the face by accident occasionally, or whatnot with any of these other top-level dudes who I feel like the small fish when I'm around. But that's because if I wasn't, and I was the big guy and I was always beating him up, I would not get better. And I could not possibly continue to expect to win at the rate of anything if I did not continually go and train people who can consistently beat me up. And so that's a good motivator. Why do I go and get my ass kicked by these guys who could do it with very little second thought to it? Because I have tons of support and a desire to make sure that it can never happen to me on a random situation, or simply if I get in the cage with the next guy, he can't do it to me.
That's awesome.
That's so dope.
That's huge, man. As cheesy and as lame and as self-help motivational air quotes as it is, like knowing how powerful and why the why is so important. I think, again, relating it back to everything, like you got to know what you're doing for. Like there's no way to be able to have this goal for yourself or for your family or for your friends or for whatever the heck it is, like unless you know why, right? And I think utilizing what you just said is huge.
There's always there's a reason as a motivating factor for everything you do. No one gets up and does something for no reason, because even if it's because I'm bored, I'm still doing it because I'm bored. Like I don't know, for instance, what you guys did as kids, but when I was a kid, something I would do is I'd go outside And I loved the idea of playing Army. I loved the idea of playing whatever, because it was fun for me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I'd see the movies, I'd see the video games, I want to do it. But the reason I went up there and did it, and I knew my neighbors could watch me, and I would do it in front of them, even though I feel kind of embarrassed by it, is because I felt like playing. I want to go out there and do it. Or if I wanted to go out there and I want to race a car against my buddy down a back street and hope no cops to find us, it's because I want to beat his ass in a race, and I want to show him that my car's faster, or it's just fun.
Yeah.
For anything you do, there's always a motivating factor. And if you sit there and you think, well, I don't know why I continue to work at this job that doesn't pay me right, or doesn't give me enough benefits, or doesn't work with my hours. The why is because you're comfortable. The why is because it would suck to go out there and find another job, to start your own business, or even pick up a second thing you can do to make money, or even out the load of your work. It's because it would suck to have to start from zero somewhere else. You put in 10 years and you don't want to try it anywhere else. So you put up with the awful because it's something you're used to. It's the devil you know versus what might be out there. So no matter what it is you're doing, good or bad, there's always a reason behind it. And if you can find one that's enough for you to motivate yourself to do better, like my life sucks, I want to make $100,000 the next year. How could I move to make those first steps? If that's enough motivation for you, then you'll find yourself out there starting a new business, hustling, talking to people, going to, I don't necessarily believe in a lot of the self-help seminars, but perhaps speaking to people who have experience in guiding other businesses along the way. And you can find them on social media. Plenty of these guys are advertising themselves nowadays.
Yeah.
So there's always a way for you to improve yourself, and it just comes down to what's more important.
So good. I like that. It's better answers than we've had
from
other
pros.
people. Another cool one that I like to ask too is, which actually I shouldn't say I like to ask because I haven't really asked it. In my head, I like to ask it.
Ooh, I'm the first.
Yeah, right. I just like, how did you get your nickname Bear?
Oh, in my last fight, I love this. The commentator said two different things as to why I was named Bear. One, because I'm hairy. I have a full body of hair. I'm covered in a not so very fine fuzz.
That's so funny.
And so one of the commentators like, maybe that's why he calls himself Bear. And they're like, no, he does it because one of his coaches told him to do it. And neither of those are true. It was so far from the reality. From the beginning of the dawn of time, or whatever my dawn of time was, like 24 years ago, my mother has been calling me Bear. And it was, and it was actually Jer Bear, and it was just like, it was just a humbly a pet name for your kid. You call him Sweetie or whatever. I was Bear, and so when it came time to decide a fight moniker, I'm going through like, I'm Redbeard. Is there a Redbeard? Yep, some dude's got Redbeard. Okay, Viking. Oh, that definitely is. Someone else has Viking. That's for sure. Marauder. No, that's stupid. And finally, it hit me like, my mom just calls me Bear all the damn time, and bears are pretty scary. So hey, Bear it is, and. Bear Fiorda kind of came into play right then and there back in 2016 for my first fight. And funny thing about fight names too, when you arrive at the venue, a lot of guys don't have a pre-picked name. So they're like, oh, what do you want us to call you? And they're like, I'm going to make fun of him. Axe Murderer, Wanderlei Silva. Now he got it from having great axe kicks, but that's a name where people are like, Axe Murderer Wanderlei Silva, okay. But I was able to come in there and think, all right, I've just been called this name forever, and while it was a term of endearment, it can still be used as a cool fight moniker.
Yeah.
So Bear it is, and that's where that came from. Not because I'm hairy, not because of my coaches, but because of my mother.
There you go. That's dope.
That is awesome.
And bears are freaking terrifying.
Yeah, they are.
Something that is over 400 pounds can still chase you down, climb up trees. That's terrifying.
Oh, man. Well, on that note, where can people find you?
Yes.
Your social media website, how can people get a hold of you if they have any questions or want to check out your lives?
Yeah, absolutely. So every social media platform, at least every in my brain that you can think of, and I don't just mean Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, but Triller, Dub Smash, Likey, Live It, all these obscure ones, it's at Bear Fiorda. Bear like the animal, and then Fiorda. No periods, no space, no cap, just smash it together as one word and write it all out, and that's exactly what you got. And then same thing for, I actually have another platform that I run for my nonprofit gym, at Free MMA Gyms with an S, is another place where you can go to watch additional content. It's normally a little bit more different than mine. I do a lot of high intensity MMA drills or some comedy things where I teach people about martial arts. Free MMA is very technical. You want to learn exactly how to jab, exactly how to wrap your hands, exactly how to do this, that, or whatever. That's for that page for those people. And then as a side note to that, it's a nonprofit. We don't charge anyone for the classes. Everything's donation based. So if you guys want to be able to donate to that program, we have links in the bio, both my professional Bear Fiorda and the gym's page, where you can just hit it and immediately donate straight to the business. Everything you send gets sent right there, and it goes to supporting the kids, the elderly, the adults who come and join the classes. And one of the groups that we have is called Father's Home. And they specifically are a group of people who put together an organization, a foster care program for young men who've gone through sexual abuse. And so they come to our gym, they take self-defense courses, leadership participation courses, and we work with them probably on a weekly to monthly basis, depending on when they come out. And there's several organizations like that, including elderly care, Boys and Girls Club. So all that gets supported whenever people donate to the business.
Dude, I think that's rad, man.
That's dope.
Just to like recap that, like the fact that you're hustling and grinding to, you know, be an MMA fighter, but on top of that, trying to do stuff that actually, not that fighting doesn't, but relating it back to making a difference in using a platform that you have, I think is something is a really awesome thing. Again, it shows character, it shows your mentality and who you are and who you want to be. And I think that's super cool. I think there's a need for it. On the way here, I literally had one of my employees ask me a question along the lines of like, she's a female and made the comment of, it's weird, and what is your opinion, Ben, on blah, 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 blah. And she's like, I don't want to have to rely on a man to protect me. And it was a situation that had happened with somebody that walked into our shop. And it took myself to get up and basically be like, you know, watch the guy to make sure he got out and didn't do anything stupid. And, you know, we're in downtown Santa Ana, of course it's going to happen. But it's something you talking about providing self-defense classes to people.
Yeah.
In today's world is so undervalued, and I would encourage anyone that is listening, whether you're in Palm Springs or freaking Alaska, like figure out how to protect yourself and your loved ones. It's something that is not just for fighting in a cage, you know, it's for protecting like your family.
When people ask me what's the best way to defend myself, I want to take self-defense courses. I'm 35 years old. I don't want to compete. I just want to protect myself. Dude, MMA.
Yeah.
Flat out. If you understand how to guide a fight to the ground or stay on the feet or put them in a hold, they can't do anything whether you're on the ground or not. And then, of course, keeping an extra eye out for whoever other stupid people might want to jump in. There's no other way to go about it. That's the end-all, be-all for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Well, Bear, thank you again for coming on, spending time with us. We know you're busy. We appreciate it. I hope people out there listening, you know, Manny and I say it all the time, like we want to be a platform for our guests and a resource for our listeners. We want somebody to get something from it, even if it's one person that gets inspired or kind of like that kick to the butt where they are like, dang, I've been complaining a lot. Maybe I need to stop complaining and get out there and do something.
Get into a martial arts class. Your complaining becomes different.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to go train right now because I'm so sore and hurting all over the place. And now listening to you, and I'm like, I can't complain. I need to go.
Do you have, or is there like a fight announcement or something you can share for the future or no?
The two things I've said consistently that I got new information just today, as you heard over at the end, but I'm not going to drop that yet. But definitely for sure, both September and October. October is open for a fight with the same company I just had one with. So both those dates are yet to be announced. I think September might be September 18th, but no one hold me to that, please. I have to be a little more accurate when I drop that.
Yeah.
But definitely September and October, there's going to be more fights. Those two are back-to-back, and hopefully we have more very, very soon.
Awesome. Well, everyone go support him, follow him, especially the nonprofit. I think that's something that's huge. I mean, obviously your fight career, but I'm a big fan of using the platform that you're given to do good. And that's something that's great. So
that's why I started to be, I'm on social media because COVID happened and the gym got shut down. People didn't have a place to learn martial arts anymore who were coming to us. 40, 50 consistent students are now out of a gym. And so if you can clear out the couch at home and get in front of a computer or a phone for a few minutes a day, I will continue to teach you guys.
That's awesome.
That is rad.
That's super cool.
All right, man. Well, Bear, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys very much for having me.
Of course, man. Anytime. And good luck with the fight coming up. And guys, go check them out. Go support them. Go check out the website, thefightwithinpodcast.com. Buy a shirt, buy a hat, buy a coffee mug. And if you do, send us some pictures. And just remember that everything was impossible till someone did it.